This is Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight we'll be going over UFC on ESPN 19. Hermannson versus Vetorri. We'll be going down the whole card, breaking down our predictions and giving away possible picks. And we do have some pretty good ideas for parlays this week. But to start off, we'll be going over last week's card just because we have some interesting thoughts on that. Last week's card was headlined by Anthony Smith versus Devin Clark. Anthony Smith got the first round triangle. Overall, depressing fight to watch if you're a Devin Clark fan. That one Devin Clark fan out there. Harsh moment when you hear Devin Clark's corner saying, "Do it for Judy, do it for Judy," as he's in the triangle. Moments before he taps out, Judy being Devin Clark's deceased mother-in-law. So it's a bittersweet win being an Anthony Smith fan. And then what were your thoughts? I know where you're going to go with this, but I want to hear it from you directly.
I was pretty disappointed in Devin Clark. I wasn't. I wouldn't say pretty disappointed. I'm disappointed in Devin Clark. And to be honest, I'm disappointed in the whole main card. I got the entire main card wrong. My picks just didn't show up. Uh, Clark was among the disappointments. So in uh, the entire main card, just in general, if you add them up together, it was just one disappointment after the other. Fighters didn't show up. Looks like I don't know what could have possibly caused them that too. Uh, Devin Clark in particular. Anthony Smith didn't show up in great shape, so I thought Devin Clark had a very good chance to showcase his skills. Instead, he decided to just sit in Anthony Smith's guard and get submitted.
My main disappointment was Josh Parisian. He was heavily favored to come in here and knock out Parker Porter. Parker Porter did a good job. He didn't get knocked out, so good for him. It's just, damn, Josh Parisian looked pretty bad after that first round. He still had enough cardio to go all three rounds into a decision. That was pretty suspect overall. Like for a guy that everyone was relatively high on, especially with his knockout streak, it was good to see. I would say he fucked us this time, but I don't foresee myself really ever betting on Josh Parisian again. Depending on who he's fighting, maybe, but after he burned me, I don't see that happening again. Spike Carlisle, 30-27. He got 30-27 by a guy who I thought was worse than the guy he fought last. I'll give it to Spike though. He admitted his faults on Instagram, so he's saying that he's going to get better. So we'll see how that goes for him. But that was also very disappointing. Sumadarji is a highlight from that card. That boy is slick, slicker than come off a gold tooth. I'll say that laser beam of a left hand was fantastic. Didn't take him much time to get Malcolm Gordon out there, but he was fantastic to watch that night.
He was indeed. I actually ended up predicting all the winners on the undercard. It wasn't until the main card started that all my predictions just fell apart. The biggest disappointments for me were Parisian and Carlisle. They didn't show up. It was my main parlay. As I imagine, a lot of people had them on their parlay. People were very high on them, but now we know uh, they're can't be very high on those guys. But Sumadarji definitely deserves some attention, and can't wait for his next fight.
Yeah, we'll be looking at this upcoming card, the Hermanson versus Vittori fight, to hopefully get some of our money back. And to begin the fight card, we have at the bantamweight division a matchup between Luis Smoka versus Jose Teco Quinones. This is frankly a coin flip fight for me. Uh, I favor Luis Smoka. I think he's a more overall talented guy, but he does have a lot of issues outside of the cage. He, I don't know, I just can't trust him, and I sure as hell can't trust Teco Quinones. I've never really been high on him. I know a lot of people talk about how he's serviceable in the UFC, how he has a winning record, but I don't really like his style. I don't remember anything about it. the fact that I have to look up tape on Jose Quinones just makes me weary of ever betting on him. I think if this fight were to go to a decision, it might favor Jose, but I rather stick with the guy who I actually remember overall, which is Louis Smolka. He has some good attributes. I think if he gets his shit together overall, gets his mind right, he'll come in and start winning fights again. He's had a pretty rough out in the UFC. He's fought some really good competition, so I don't fault him. And speaking of Sumadarji, he did beat Sumadarji, perhaps a slightly greener version of Sumadarji. So based on the fact that he's got a better win on his record, I've got Louis Smolka winning by, I want to say decision, but more than likely, if he does win this fight, it would have to be via submission. So I will say a opportunistic submission from Louis Smolka.
I agree. I see Smolka having fought the better competition, even having lost his last fight to. I see Smolka as a submission guy, and having lost his last fight by submission to Casey Kenny, which was only 5 months ago, doesn't look too good. But Casey's not too bad.
He beat Nathaniel Wood, so he's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean he beat Sue not too long ago, and uh, he did kind of leave the UFC for a bit because he was on a losing streak, and having won three out of his last five fights isn't too bad. But I do see him having more experience, having fought higher level competition. So I do see him winning by submission, or at the very least, keeping the fight interesting by you know, trying trying to submit Quinones.
Do you remember when he cashed out for us as underdog against Patrick Houlihan in Vegas? That
I
fight took
do
place. Yeah, I remember we were sitting outside of a craps table because they weren't playing the fight, and I had it on my computer.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
That's actually what I remember.
yeah.
That's yeah, Patty Holohan. That was an interesting fight night. And actually, I would have won. I remember I would have won big on that fight card as well had I not bet on women's MMA.
Yep. It since 2015, fucking us over with our bad decisions. Next on the card, we have a lightweight bout between Gabriel Mowgli Benitez versus Justin Guitar Hero James. It's pretty cut and dry for me when it comes to this fight. I think Benitez is the more skilled fighter. I don't know who has the toughness advantage. I would lean towards Benitez. I do like his kicks, right? He throws kicks right off the bat. He's moving up in weight, which tends to favor the fighter who's getting older. He is 32 now, so he might not be able to make that weight cut to 145. My concern with this fight is that he's fighting Justin James at a higher weight class. Last time Justin came in at a higher weight class, he knocked out his opponent in the first round as a huge underdog. At this point, I get the feeling that James is going to bum rush him and get the knockout in the first round. This is just me going off a gut instinct because everything from my head is telling me that Mobley is going to uh, decision Justin James. As long as he can keep his chin tucked, I think he'll do that. But my official pick is going to be Justin James by first round knockout. I think he'll go in there. He'll be able to use his one round of gas to get Gabriel out.
I agree. I'm not very high on Justin James based on his last performance. And a lot of these guys in the COVID era just do not seem to be training. They're not showing up. I see Justin James as this week's Alpha Ginger. Not sure if he'll, bum rush, his trademark bum rush to Benitez because I think that's his only path to victory in the first round.
Our next matchup at featherweight, we have Ilya Taporia versus Damon the Leech Jackson. Uh, First thing that pops into my head is that when I was doing research on Damon Jackson, his record's not as bad as I remember. He's 17-3, and for whatever reason, in my mind, I had him with a worse record. So he's not overall bad, uh, because I'm automatically just going to say Ilya Taporia is going to beat Damon Jackson. I see the exact same outcome of the fight Damon Jackson had with Mirsad Bektik, minus Ilya Taporia fucking up and getting caught in a submission. If anything, I see Ilya catching Damon eventually in a submission, perhaps an arm triangle. I want to say the third round, if not a decision, because Damon is tough, but I've never really been high on Damon overall. I am really high on Ilya at this point. He beat Yusuf Zalal on short notice. He looked pretty damn good in that fight. His submission attempts, his grappling was fantastic. I think he's going to edge out this fight. I want to say by submission, third round. But if you are prop betting, look into potentially doing the over 2.5 or a decision for Ilya Taporia. But god damn it, I'm going to say round three submission Ilya.
I agree. I'm pretty high on Ilya as well after his fight with Yusuf. He took that fight in short notice and he schooled Yusuf. Yusuf didn't have an answer for him, and he gave up the decision. Not really high on Damon Jackson myself, but I think the line is a little bit off. I don't think he's a 2-1 favorite. I think it should be closer, like a minus 130, minus 140 for Ilya. But uh, so I may be including him in a parlay at those odds. I don't think I'll bet him straight, and but I do have him winning this fight either by decision or catching him sometime in the second round via submission because he's pretty slick. He's pretty quick. Now, Damon does have the height and reach advantage, but I think Ilya's quicker on the ground. I think he might try some chain submissions or just move. You know, not really sure how to how to say it, but I think he's just going to be faster on the ground, faster than Damon can handle.
Next up in the flyweight division, we have Jimmy the Brick Flick fighting Cody Durden. My initial thoughts on this were Cody Durden's going to outmuscle Jimmy Flick to a unanimous decision victory. All of those submission attempts from Jimmy aren't going to do a goddamn thing to the bigger fighter. And then I found out that this is at flyweight, which completely turned everything around. I have no idea what to think at this point between these two fighters because Jimmy Flick is a tough dude. He's a veteran. He has a phenomenal ground game. He schooled Nate Smith in his Contender Series fight, going for submission after submission, which was highly impressive. Uh, my thoughts were Cody Durden being a stronger grappler, not necessarily a stronger wrestler, but a stronger overall MMA grappler. He should be able to fend off the submissions and potentially get that unanimous decision victory. At this point, though, I'm leaning towards Flick just based on him being used to flyweight, him just being acclimated overall to that flyweight cut and in that division. It's not to say that Cody Durden can't win this fight because it's a very, very close fight, in my opinion. It really comes down to the weigh ins. I'd like to see how Cody Durden looks. If he looks good overall and he makes the weight without looking sucked up and dry, I might change my pick. I might put some money down on Cody Durden. So I'm pretty high on him at flyweight. I'm not too sure yet. So again, I'll have to take a look at him on the weigh-ins because he's currently a plus 150 underdog. And that's some pretty good money. Uh, but yeah, at this point, my official bet has to be Jimmy Flick by decision.
I agree with the line as well. I think maybe it's a little too high. It should be a little bit closer. I'd say Jimmy
Right.
Flick, minus 120. Cody Durden, plus 110 or something. It's a lot closer fight than that. But at 125, yeah, I think the weigh-ins are going to be very indicative of how Cody may come into this fight and how his performance might look. If he looks, fairly in good spirits, very energetic during the weigh-in, He might become a very live dog in this fight. But if he looks, like somebody get this guy, a whopper or something, um, then yeah, I'll definitely be leaning more to Jimmy Flick at that point. I am leaning slightly toward Jimmy now before the weigh-ins, but the weigh-ins will sway me, I think, one way or the other.
Next up at the lightweight division, we have a bout between Matt Wyman and Jordan Levitt. I'll ask you a question. Do you remember when Kurt Angle from the WWE uh, came back to the WWE and he just looked like he lost a step? Like he took a break from wrestling for maybe a couple months while he was transitioning back to the WWE. And the stuff he was doing in the independent circuit was like, oh, he still got it. The moment he stopped training, it's like his body just said, I'm out of here. I'm done. That's how I see Matt Wyman at this point. He stepped away, he retired for a number of years and now he's coming back and he's just not the same. It's like he has the skill. It's just that his body doesn't work anymore when it comes to that. Like his brain says do this and his body just doesn't react the same way, which is pretty damn sad. When it comes to his opponent Jordan Levitt, we got a guy who is a phenomenal ace grappler. The way he is able to position himself to get submissions and then just continuously go from submission to submission is phenomenal. He's got great grappling, great ground control. They don't call him the Monkey King for nothing. At this point, I don't think Jordan will be able to submit Matt just because he does have the skill, despite his body allowing him to display that. So I do see Jordan winning this fight by a decision. It's hard to see Matt continue to fight at this point. I'm not sure if he needs the money. I really do hope that he retires. If he's able to somehow pull out the win, because Jordan is the greener fighter, despite personally thinking that he has an excellent skill set. I think he has a lot of experience, especially with the regional circuit and the amateur bouts. But overall, he's not as experienced as Matt due to his age. He's what 37. He could catch Jordan, and that's just me saying that because anything can happen. But I do see Jordan winning this fight rather comfortably, which is painful to say because you don't want to see a guy like Matt Wyman get dominated like that again. But Jordan Levitt by decision.
I agree with everything you've said. And actually, going back to Kurt Angle, um, I think he just stopped juicing, while he was on the independent circuit. And so when he came back, it was Grandpa Angle at that point without the juice.
Are you
Um,
saying like his Jack LaLanne juicer?
yeah, yeah. He wasn't, drinking his beets and his, with his apples and whatnot. So that's how the WWE guys roll. Once they stop juicing, they start, even when they get to a certain age, even though they look the part, um, they're not. The juice, I guess, only helps them, to a certain point. Unlike MMA, it's when these guys juice, like Vitor Belfort, he went through a second puberty and was on a pretty good roll there for TRT tour, the TRT tour. He was on a pretty good roll with juicing himself. But one thing I've noticed about these lines, I while I do see Jordan Levitt, and this is just strictly on the line, on the lines based off their experience and who I think is going to win. I believe Jordan Levitt is going to probably get a decision on Matt Wyman. I think Matt Wyman, while he isn't as spry as he used to be, he does have the experience. I think it will serve him well in this fight. Um, However, I think his reaction time and such, he's gotten older. Um, that's gonna be a setback for him. But that being the case, I do not see Jordan Levitt being almost a 4-1 favorite over Matt Wyman. Maybe if the odds were like nine, I personally see the odds as like minus 150 Jordan, like plus 120, plus 130 for Matt. These odds are ridiculous. No way am I laying down almost $40 to win $10 or however much you want to bet. Near these 4-1 odds on Jordan Levitt. No way in hell. He is not worth that much.
I agree with you on that. I don't think the line is based off of how good Jordan is. It's more based on how poor of a performance Matt Wyman in his second run has looked. So I
Yeah,
actually agree with the line. I don't agree with the line based on the overall skill. I just agree with it based on what we've seen from one of the competitors.
yeah. I mean, even at minus 280, way too high. Even at minus 180. So I will not be. I'll be taking Jordan Levitt's side. I just will not be laying any money down at these odds. I may look at a prop bet, maybe Jordan by decision. That might be a little bit easier to press the button on. But yeah, that's why I see it.
Well, in the most anticipated fight in heavyweight division, we've got John Vellante versus Jake the Prototype Collier. Interesting numbers I'm going to throw out, you guys. Last time John Vellante fought, he fought at a weight of 255, and Collier came in at 264. The battle comes down to who looks better at the weigh ins because they're both fucking terrible when it comes to their body and physiques. I can't even pick which one came in worse. John Vellante was a disappointment in that weigh-in. Like you hear that he's going up to heavyweight, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna probably put on some muscle. He'll have a bit of fat on him, but dear God, he was on death's fucking door via diabetes. Just looking at him. As for Jay Collier, I heard he was moving up to heavyweight when he fought Tom Aspinall, and I was looking at the weigh-ins. I was watching the weigh-ins, and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? I've never seen this neckbeard before. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Jake Collier. God damn. It was depressing. Uh, it's not a fight I'm looking forward to watch. It's not a fight I'm even going to bet. I don't even want to break these two down just based off of the way they've looked. I will say one thing though. I'm leaning more towards Jake Collier just for one particular thing that I've caught. Just kind of reviewing his tape a bit at heavyweight, he does remind me of Chaz Bono. So that's something. So I'm going to go with Jake Collier solely for the fact that he reminds me of Chaz Bono.
Um, I see this as being as bad of a fight as last week's, Parker Porter Parisian fight. I think these guys are going to come in probably in as bad, if not worse shape than those guys. And they're going to be huffing and puffing, by the 45-second mark of the first round. I don't see an advantage for either guy, to be honest, because if Jake Collier, gets John in basically in a bear hug, I see John tapping out. Um, a la his name escapes me from the WWE from Masters, the Master Lock. What's his name? James Masters.
Chris Masters?
Chris Masters. I bet if he gets in, in the what they call the Master Lock, but what's really the full is it the
Full
full
Nelson.
crab, full Nelson. Yeah. Anyway,
Where are you
I see
going with
John.
this, dude?
I see John. If I see Jake Collier beating John by some WWE, some professional wrestling submission, not an actual even jiu-jitsu submission. If he gets him in a half Nelson, full Nelson, half crab, basically if he puts him in the walls of Jericho, I see John tapping out. Um, and I see Chris Jericho jumping in the ring and hugging Jake Collier and welcoming him into his group. Yeah, I'd say best bet here is the over. Because like I said, these guys are going to be huffing and puffing.
No, 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 no.
Um,
I would say the under because they're going to try to hit the buffet as soon as they can.
yeah, true. But for the sake of, I think whoever loses this fight is probably going to get cut because I mean you can't have these, this pathetic of a fight several times in a row and expect to be kept in, the promotion with that's supposed to have the highest level fighters in the world and keep putting these guys even on a on the prelims of a fight night. That's considering all the guys that they have in their back pocket with the contender series and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, there's really no developing um, either of these guys. These guys are not going to be top 10 anytime soon. So if I'm not going to bet this fight, but um, I will predict. I will have as my official prediction for this fight. I'll just be taking the over.
Our next bout comes in the featherweight division. Opening up the main card, we have Nate the Train Landwehr versus Mozar Evloev. This is a fascinating fight because with this fight, I see Evloev having every advantage other than being a crazy redneck. For that, Nate has that down in spades. That's what's going to make this fight highly entertaining because Evloev has incredible striking, incredible grappling. He's well rounded, other than the fact that he goes to decision a lot, which is something I like to see, especially if I'm putting money on a fighter that he can go to decision and win a decision, which he's been doing consistently. But Nate the Train is going to come out here and try to take off another Russian's head. He comes from M1. He's so fucking used to beating up Russians. So this could be a possible upset because if I checked recently, Evloev is like a minus 400. Rightfully so, in my opinion. I think he has every advantage again over Nate Landwehr. Just that Nate is a tough dude. He will come out there and he will try to win in any sort of way. If he gets taken down, he'll try to get back up. Any possibility when they're out in the open, he will be slinging leather. But I don't think it'll be enough. I think Evloev is too damn smart. I think he's too damn good. And I see him getting this decision win.
I agree. Based on Evloev's uh, second to last performance against Enrique Barzola, um, I went against. I thought Evloev didn't look too good then, so I actually went against him when he fought Mike Grundy. Big mistake on my part. Evloev looked a lot better in that fight, and I think he will continue to improve. He's only 26 years old. He is one of these, Russians that sharpen like iron as they get older. As they start wrestling more, they're gonna. I foresee him. Um, Actually, he's a pretty big favorite. He's a 6 to almost a 6-1 favorite at this point, and I imagine he'll as money comes in, he might very well be a 7-1 favorite, if not higher, against Nate. And that's crazy.
That is
Um,
crazy because last I
I would,
checked, it was like minus 400. Now I check it now, he's minus 590. Jesus.
yeah. So I think the odds are going to continue to go up for him. This guy's a parlay piece, I think. Or you might want to look at the prop bet him winning by decision because he is going to, I believe, be a wrestling machine in this fight. And I will also be taking, um, the over, probably in this fight, sprinkling a bit on the over. But I definitely see him taking the decision.
Our next fight takes place at the light heavyweight division with a bout with Roman Dolidze versus John Allen. We've got Georgia versus Brazil, Georgia, the country. Entertaining fight, in my opinion. Don't have much to say about these two. I think they both have a lot to show and display. Roman Dolidze's a knockout machine. He last knocked out one of the worst fighters I have ever seen. I can't even explain how pissed I was when I put money on Kadis Ibrahimov. I did it twice in his UFC tenure, and he lost all four of his fucking fights. So despite him getting that knockout win in that fight, he did knock out a guy who I personally consider one of the worst fighters out there in that division. Not much I can say better about John Allen. I saw some of his tape. He's pretty sloppy. Honestly, he's sloppier than a black girl giving head. I didn't really like his Muay Thai overall. it's fun to watch. I won't say that, but when you're putting money on a guy that's that wild, it's concerning. I think that Delice is going to be able to catch him. I think Delice is more willing to grapple overall in this matchup. So if he needs to, for whatever reason, say things get hairy, I think he'll shoot for a takedown, probably catch John Allen by surprise when he's throwing some of those sloppy strikes. He puts a lot into those punches. But I do think that Delice is going to catch him with one of those openings. Being the man who has the more power in this matchup, I think he catches him, knocks out John Allen. And not to mention, he's coming out of a suspension. He hasn't fought since July of 2019. Some ring rust would be part of that factor as well. Roman just recently fighting back in July of 2020. Should get the job done. Not sure when. I'll just say second round knockout.
I agree. I think the lead will catch John Allen, but I think that he'll most likely catch him in the first round. The lead does throw some heat, um, and I think he's going to have the most heat in that first round. So I think that's probably his best bet for a knockout. Otherwise, I just see him out striking him, and if he can't knock him out in the first round, then for sure he'll get the decision. Um, you know, I see him. While the odds have it as a close fight, I see Felice with the advantage on the feet. So I see him because unless John Allen can comes out and is all of a sudden a grappling wizard and dominates Felice on the ground, I see Felice handling business and either getting the knockout in the first or just lighting him up on the feet and getting that decision.
Our next matchup comes at women's flyweight with a matchup between the superior De La Rosa, Montana De La Rosa, and Talia Santos. Not much to say about it. Like I see some improvement in Montana. She's primarily a grappler, a jiu-jitsu specialist. She has attempted to fix her striking. Her last fight was against Vivian Arajo. Didn't look great. It was a clear-cut victory for Vivian. She did at least try to strike with Vivian, I would say, in a failed effort. So I'll give her props for that. Talia is going to come in here and decision her, no problem, I would say. She will have the superior striking. If things get dicey and Montana does attempt a takedown, I think she'll have enough power to stuff the takedown, sprawl, make her pay for the attempt. And I see this just being an easy coast win for Talia, 30-27 decision.
I agree. And saying Montana's the superior De La Rosa really isn't saying much. These odds I actually agree with. I definitely agree with Talia being the 2-1 favorite. Her last performance against Meatball Molly McCann was a pretty good performance. Unfortunately, I went with Meatball, and I ended up with spaghetti in my face in that fight. Talia went in, handled business. Her striking has improved vastly. And as long as if you can keep Montana from just smelling that crotch for 3 rounds, I think she'll do enough on the feet to get that decision win.
Our co-main event is a matchup at light heavyweight between Ovince St. Preux and Jamal Hill. I'm highly interested to see how well Jamal Hill does against the veteran Ovince St. Preux. Ovince St. Preux has more losses than Jamal Hill has professional wins. So he has Ovince St. Preux, that is, has way more experience, has fought way better competition. Yet the line has Jamal Hill as the slight favorite, minus 180, and Ovince St. Preux coming in at a plus 150. I am taking the OSP side in this bout, mainly because, as I mentioned, the experience and the trend of OSP always knocking out contenders, future prospects. He is a prospect killer. He is the greatest gatekeeper at light heavyweight. If you can't beat OSP, you're not reaching that title. He last knocked out Alonzo Minifield. I believe he was an underdog at that fight, and he knocked him out cold. He also choked out another hyped fighter in Michael Lord Omlzajic. Hope I pronounced that right. Whatever. Yvonne Flu choked him. Von Prue choked him. There's a lot to like about Jamal Hill. It's not to say he can't win this fight. I think the odds are spot on, based on Jamal's performances. He is a long, rangy striker. He uses his punches and kicks very well. He does have a slight defense problem that he hopefully should be clearing up. If he does, I see him potentially knocking out OSP. But with that experience of OSP, I see him just getting on top of Jamal Hill and doing what he does. He'll either Von Prue him or even Kimura him, just do whatever he wants on the ground because they're roughly the same size. That is, if Jamal Hill hasn't improved enough to stuff takedowns from a guy like OSP, he's going to have some trouble. I see this going St. Prue's way, submission, second round.
Yeah, this is interesting fight. While I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm high on Jamal Hill. I mean, he's okay. He's just getting started. While he's not exactly a young 29. He doesn't have too many fights. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of value here on Oven St. Preux. I think there's money. There's going to be a lot of money coming in. Well, on Ovens. So if you're looking to grab Ovens, now's the time to get him at when he's at underdog money. Because I'm pretty sure by fight time, those in the know, he'll be at minus money. So I think now's the time to grab him. I do see Ovens winning this fight, um, either by knockout or I think he has a choice either by knocking Jamal out, or possibly another Von Flu choke.
You know what's interesting? Just off of the top of your head, can you remember the last time that Oven St. Preux was knocked out and who knocked him out?
I can't. I mean, I know he. Well, the thing is that he fought Rothwell at heavyweight, and he lost that by split decision. He didn't look too good. I don't know what happened in his training camp or outside, but he didn't get knocked out by Rothwell, who was a significantly bigger guy in terms of his girth. Um, and no, I mean, I'd have to look up his record to see when he last lost.
Well, I'll tell you, it was Jimmy Manuel back in 2016. And I think,
Wow.
yeah, due to the perception, I think, of OSP getting knocked out, because you always have that in the back of your head, like, oh shit, OSP gets knocked out and he looks hilarious. And unofficially, Dominic Reyes knocked him out in 2018, but that unofficially, that is because he did knock him out in the final second of the third round. They didn't call it a knockout, but he did get knocked out. So you have that in the back of your head of like, OSP's chin may not be able to handle it. Him being at 37 years old does create that narrative that he's over the hill. I don't think he's out yet, especially fighting a 7-0 guy who's 29. I see that value in OSP. So I don't think he'll get knocked out by Jamal Hill. There is a chance, of course, because Jamal is a good striker. He can catch OSP, but OSP, as you mentioned, he can catch Jamal very flush and then get the knockout win. And then we'll be praising OSP as being the greatest light heavyweight gatekeeper of all time.
Yeah, I don't see this guy knocking out OSP. OSP has a fairly high fight IQ, and this I should remind you that that was a motivated Reyes that fought OSP at the time. He was pretty his high school accomplishments, athletic accomplishments were pretty fresh way back when he fought OSP. So he was still kind of riding high from his athletic accomplishments in high school then.
In our main event, we have Jack the Joker Hermanson versus Marvin the Italian Dream Vittori. Vittori coming in on semi short notice, and I say semi because he was training to fight Jacare Souza in a couple weeks or so. So he did have his full camp, but he is coming in and fighting a 5 rounder against Jack Hermanson, who had been training for a 5 round fight. A hell of a main event. I think this particular fight is a closer fight than the initial fight between Jack Hermanson and Kevin Holland. I would have taken Jack Hermanson in that fight. I think he would have outmuscled Kevin Holland a bit. With this fight, way more intriguing. I think it's a way closer fight, but I do see Marvin Vittori edging this one out. I like Marvin Vittori. I think him training with Rafael Cordero has really helped him improve overall. His striking, in particular, is looked significantly improved. We know he's got great grappling. I wouldn't say it's as good as Jack Hermanson because Jack Hermanson has better MMA grappling, as we saw in the fight with Jacare, where he nearly choked him out with his patented Joker team. He is a more complete fighter when it comes to MMA and not just looking at it in the grappling sense. But I think Marvin has enough to beat Jack Hermanson. There are some things about Jack that I've never really liked, and that is the striking. When he's fighting a guy like Jared Cannonier, I saw him panic wrestle and try to take him down. When he got the first takedown, he wasn't able to be effective with the striker, and then afterwards he telegraphed his shots so obviously that Cannonier just was able to pick him apart and just avoid the takedown. I didn't like what I saw from him. Jack having a pretty damn high fight IQ, him making that mistake was concerning to me. His last fight with uh, Kelvin Gastelum, I actually picked Jack Hermanson, and thank God he pulled it through at dog money. But when it comes to Marvin Vittori, I think he'll have enough in the striking range. He'll be the tougher dude. I think he has the stronger head, as Israel Adesanya put it. He has a blockhead. So in those wild exchanges that will be initiated by Marvin Vittori, I think he catches Jack Hermanson with a wild punch, puts him down, and then gets him out with a TKO victory. I'm going to say second round. I will say though, Marvin has shown issues with his gas tank, so I don't see him lasting longer than maybe 2.5 rounds before his gas tank does start to diminish. Hopefully, he has improved that issue with this latest camp. I would hope he has, just because we've seen him slow down a bit. His last fight with Carl Roberson didn't go past the first round, so we didn't get to see if he's made those improvements. I'm gonna bet that he has, but overall, if we're looking at it from the scope of his previous performances where his cardio is kind of shit, I still think he has enough to get him out or Jack out in about 3 rounds. So I would say second round TKO Marvin Vittori. He'll be breaking into the top 10 after this fight.
I agree. I know a lot of people are high on Jack Hermanson, or might be high. I mean, he is a skilled guy, but he beat, an unmotivated, kind of flabby Kelvin Gastelum, who in turn came off a loss to Darren Till, who himself, hasn't looked too good in the last, year plus or so. He did lose to somebody I would say that doesn't necessarily mirror uh, Martin Vittori, but has kind of a similar style, and that's Jared Cannonier. Um, so I would say I agree. I think I see Martin Vittori taking out Jack in the second round by TKO, either ground and pound or just catching him on the feet. If it goes past the third round, depending on how Marvin, deals with the first 2 3 rounds, Jack might have the edge in that fight. If it does go into rounds 4 and 5, Hermanson might just take those rounds or choke him out. But I see Marvin as the hungrier fighter at this point. And I do agree with the odds. They are uh, with Marvin being the favorite. He's almost a 2-1 favorite. I think he'll be more than a 2-1 favorite come fight day. Um, yeah, and I see him as the more aggressive fighter on the feet. And if it does get to the ground, I think he will engage with ground strikes. Um, so yeah, I have Marvin by TKO.
So, with that being said, what are your final thoughts about this card? Are you excited to watch any particular fighter on this Saturday night?
I am. I am actually looking forward to Oven St. Preux. Looking forward to watching Oven St. Preux have that second, not gas tank. What's the word? Second run. In the UFC. He's. I think besides Glover Teixeira, I think Oven St. Preux is going to have a little run of his own. Later in life. I think he's got enough to beat all these. He's going to be one of these gatekeepers, and I think he's going to have some success toward the end of his fight. But I'm also looking forward to watching what Ilya Topuria is going to do against Damon Jackson. I see him winning out that fight, and I see him as a fighter to watch going forward.
Yeah, for me, the fight I'm really looking forward to watch just because I'm kind of a dick is the Evloev versus Landwehr fight. And but I what I say by that is that I'm kind of hoping Landwehr wins. I will be putting money on Evloev, but just the troll in me wants to see what happens if if Landwehr knocks out Evloev because that would fuck up our little world of what we think MMA is. Because again, Evloev is a heavy favorite, rightfully so. But if Nate the Train Landwehr comes in and runs a train on Evloev, that would fuck everything up for the division, I would say. It would make things way more interesting, but a prospect in Evloev getting knocked out, it would change the landscape of what we believe MMA is. And we have Nate the Train coming in and knocking out a very, very, very good prospect. So, although I don't think that would happen, I am looking forward to seeing it.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm also looking forward to that fight. Um, yeah, Evloev is a huge favorite in that fight, man, and that's one of those fights where there is some value on the underdog there, because Nate can, very, very well possibly just catch Evloev on one of those takedowns or scrambles. So that's definitely going to be an interesting fight.
Well, guys, that has been our take on this fight night. Those are our predictions overall. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and we'll catch you on the next one.